5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey y'all, welcome to Cooking the Books, where I take that book list collecting dust in the corner and read it to you so you don't have to. Nobody's got time for that. So, welcome. I'm going to ask you guys to, I don't know if I'll say vote. You let me know which one you like better, because I got fancy schmancy things in StreamYard finally, as of like this morning. So I'm going to play around with it. Do you guys like the circle me, even though you can't really see all of my background, but you can see this virtual background around the circle? I don't really like the square, but if y'all do, because you can see my background, I'm fine with it. Otherwise, it's just me. So you let me know. I'm more partial to this, but I still don't know, because I do like my background. Like move the camera around a little bit, but then it takes out this stuff and that stuff. Or just leave it how it was. I'm cool with either. But wanted to see what you guys think. How's everybody doing? Having a good Wednesday, I hope. Welcome. And my cat says hi, if you heard that. I don't know if this changed. No, that didn't change anything. Sorry, I'm just playing around with things. Nope, that doesn't do anything. Back to that. Okay. Okay. I'm going to go a little out of order because really, it just came in. That's rude, except for the last book. This book I like so far. So screw you, Maza, because I'm pretty sure that's not lethal. Or cream. But on that note, let me say hi to chat. See how everybody's doing. Legatus. Ooh, Dom beat Legatus. Wow. Doing well, Dom. How are you? So what do you... Don't you dare lay down and give me the win, or I'm going to do the same thing you're doing and we'll end on a tie. That's not what I'm doing. I'm figuring things out, let's say. I promise that's not what I'm doing. I was also in a mood for like the past 4 days, so it didn't help. And I was just like, screw this, I'm done. I got 40 freaking points, guys. Like, My competitive nature was not okay with that. And it literally had nothing to do with I would have gotten maybe to like 89 points had I put in Alan and Shakur, whatever his name is. Both of those Bills bastards that didn't do anything the week before. But I didn't care so much about that. I more cared about Rashid Shaheed not freaking catching 4 passes. The 5th one was underthrown because Carr was hit as he was throwing it. Ugh, this is not football. This is not football. Okay, back to book nerd stuff. Hi, Legatus. What's up, Mud Crab? Why? It is kind of funny that I started the next book with a journey book, though, so I'll allow it this time. You're a spoiler. I love how you guys chit chat back and forth before it starts. What's up, CJ? How's it going? Glad you're here. Though I am glad Maz is here as well. Fuck you too, bitch. So Dom says the original's better. In the spotlight. Is this the spotlight? Right here? Hey, Maz. Stupid. Hey, Winky Wanky Will. What's up, man? I'm not even going to give that the time of day, sir. Can't you make a choice for yourself? Yes, I can, but I like other people's opinions. What, you don't want Sam to yell at you anymore? So you're not going to give an opinion because I'll choose one that maybe he doesn't like? You only like Journey because of Sopranos. I never watched The Sopranos, so I don't get that reference. Hey, Sam. How's it going? How's work? It would be funny, yes, if I beat you for my first win. That is definitely, that would be hilarious. You are correct. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to go back to playing with the, because I don't like that one. So I'm just going to take that off the table. Like if it had an edge to it, whatever. But I like this with the little, you can't see me circling it with the mouse, but I like the little background. It's comforting and soothing, isn't it? All you listeners, while I'm reading. You guys can fight that out in chat. I'm fine with it. Okay, does everybody remember what happened last week? There was a lot, and let's see. I could probably swing 3 chapters. They're pretty long chapters, so it just depends on my mood, really, how long we want to go and y'all want to hang out. But yeah. So we're on chapter 2. Basically, like in the very, very beginning, they kind of went through the way that the world or Buddhism looks at the year. There was a lot there, and I forgot to kind of read up on it again. Really, Sam? Really? The trees are weird with the rain effect. They're being rained on. Yeah, someone met someone and they went somewhere. Well, basically Sun Wukong was like what the handsome monkey king, I think, but he didn't really have a name. They found this waterfall. Like he befriends a bunch of different animals and like monkeys and baboons and such after he's born from a rock, and like lives his life or whatever. And they find a stream and are interested in following it. And then they follow it all the way up the mountain to a waterfall. And basically they all agreed that whoever jumped through the waterfall, not that they knew anything was behind it, to kind of like investigate would be their leader. So no one really wanted to do it. And then Sun Wukong decided that he was going to. He jumps through and sees like a bunch of standard living paraphernalia, like dishes and chairs and whatnot. And they basically claim it as their own. And he gets everybody to follow once he goes back out and whatnot. And they live their lives. But as he gets older, Sun Wukong is worried that basically it's kind of like a life story. As you get older, you start thinking more about your mortality. So he just gets worried for his people and for himself and decides that he wants to go seek immortality. And they heard rumors of immortals, or there were stories of immortals. I can't quite remember, so correct me if anyone knows better. CJ might, since he has read this. But he goes on this journey to another continent, and I'll have fun trying to pronounce them again. So bear with me on that. He goes to the next continent over on a raft that they all built for him, and he basically searches for 8 to 10 years, I believe was the window, and eventually gets to, leaves the continent that he's on and gets to the continent on the other side. Let me see if I can remember how they're all pronounced. At least I think he's on the one that starts with an S. But he does eventually find an immortal who doesn't quite believe him when he says that, he's been searching for so long, because it's just unbelievable to him. Okay, so this book is solely concerned with the East Purva Vidya continent. Okay. I think that's the one that he starts on, right? All the monkeys got their hands. Marvelous water. Check prettiness. Handsome Monkey King. I did remember that correctly. Yay. There's a lot of poetry in here that doesn't really read like poetry, and I do my best to put a proper inflection on it so you know that I'm reading a poem. But if you guys want me to tell you poem incoming, I can. Aha! Okay. Pushing off with all his might, he drifted out toward the great ocean and, taking advantage of the wind, set sail for the border of South Jambudvipa continent. So that was the first one that he did not find an immortal on. But he did speak with a man in the woods who told him where to go. Maybe that's the one that he eventually was on. Aha! Okay, so that's the one that he did eventually get to, and he met the immortal. Sorry, I'm rambling a little. Let me see. Okay, he unwittingly spent 8 or 9 years on the South Jambudvipa continent. Okay, so it was the middle one. He eventually gets to the West Aparagodanya continent. Aparagodanya. I might be mispronouncing some of the inflections, but once he met the immortal, he basically gets his name after convincing the guy that he's like bowing to over and over and over again and prostrating himself. Yeah. The patriarch is what they call him. He explained that he was born from a rock and not from a tree. The patriarch thought that he was born from a rock. Let me see. I recall that there used to be an immortal stone in the flower fruit mountain from which he was born. Evidently, you've been created by heaven and earth. Get up and show me how you walk, which amused him. Yeah. And so he gets the name Sun Wukong. And that's where we ended off. I had a hard time with the poetry parts. Yeah. That's probably my worst part, but I don't really like frou-frou language crap like that anyway. I know people probably don't appreciate me talking about poetry that way, or even just in here, but I don't really care. You get what you get here. Yeah, so that's where we ended. He had basically just gotten his name, if that reference clues you in, CJ. I don't know how to pronounce this. Ju Bagier? That's how I'm going to pronounce that once I get to it, if I do. Monkey Magic was best series of the story. Yes, it is rain. I'm going to keep it this way for now. I might change it later. Maybe I'll change it up each time. You know that there's a monkey in the book that goes on an adventure. Yeah, that's the basic synopsis of it for sure. I don't know why it's not working. I'm sorry. Maybe you've tipped me too much. It's probably telling you that. I guess on that note, I have pinned at the top of the comments my stream elements if anyone is so inclined to donate and if it works for them. I don't know why it's not working for Dom, and I apologize, but it's okay. Not here for your money, just here to enjoy some reading with you guys. And if you feel like donating, you can, and it's appreciated. But let's get on with it, shall we? I don't know why I always say shall we. I feel like I do. I just clicked on the wrong thing. There we go. Okay. Talking my way through things. We're on chapter 2. Chapter 2. Fully awoke to Bodhi's wondrous truth, he cuts off Mara, returns to the root, and joins primal spirit. Now we were speaking of the handsome monkey king who, having received his name, jumped about joyfully and went forward to give Subodhi his grateful salutation. The patriarch then ordered the congregation to lead son Wukong outdoors and to teach him how to sprinkle water on the ground and dust and how to speak and move with proper courtesy. The company of immortals obediently went outside with Wukong, who then bowed to his fellow students. They prepared thereafter a place in the corridor where he might sleep. Next morning, he began to learn from his schoolmates the arts of language and etiquette. He discussed with them the scriptures and the doctrines. He practiced calligraphy and burned incense. Such was his daily routine. In more leisurely moments, he would be sweeping the grounds or hoeing the garden, planting flowers or pruning trees, gathering firewood or lighting fires, fetching water or carrying drinks. He did not lack for whatever he needed, and thus he lived in the cave without realizing that 6 or 7 years had slipped by. One day, the patriarch ascended the platform and took his high seat. Calling together all the immortals, he began to lecture on a great doctrine. He spoke with words so florid and eloquent that gold lotus sprang up from the ground. The doctrine of 3 vehicles he subtly rehearsed, including even the law's minutest tittle. The yak's tail waved slowly in spouted elegance. His thunderous voice moved even the 9th heaven. For a while he lectured on Tao. For a while he spoke on Chan. To harmonize the 3 parties is a natural thing. One word's elucidation filled with truth points to the birthless, showing nature's mystery. Wukong, who was standing there and listening, was so pleased with the talk that he scratched his ear and rubbed his jaw. Grinning from ear to ear, he could not refrain from dancing on all fours. Suddenly, the patriarch saw this and called out to him, "Why are you madly jumping and dancing in the ranks and not listening to my lecture?" Wukong said, "Your pupil was devoutly listening to the lecture, but when I heard such wonderful things from my reverend master, I couldn't contain myself for joy and started to leap and prance about quite unconsciously. May the master forgive my sins." "Let me ask you," said the patriarch, "if you comprehend these wonderful things, do you know how long you have been in this cave?" Wukong said, "Your pupil is basically feeble-minded and does not know the number of seasons. I only remember that whenever the fire burned out in the stove, I would go to the back of the mountain to gather firewood. Finding a mountain full of pine peach trees there, I have eaten my fill of peaches 7 times." The patriarch said, "That mountain is named the Ripe Peach Mountain. If you have eaten your fill 7 times, I suppose it must have been 7 years. What kind of Taoist art would you like to learn from me?" Wukong said, "I am dependent on the admonition of my honored teacher. Your pupil would gladly learn whatever has a smidgen of Taoist flavor." The patriarch said, "Within the tradition of Tao, there are 360 heteronymous divisions, all the practices of which may result in illumination. I don't know which division you would like to follow." "I am dependent on the will of my honored teacher," said Wukong. "Your pupil is wholeheartedly obedient." "How would it be," said the patriarch, "if I taught you the practice of the method division?" Wukong asked, "How would you explain the practice of the method division?" "The practice of the method division," said the patriarch, "consists of summoning immortals and working the planchette, of divination by manipulating yarrow stalks, and of learning the secrets of pursuing good and avoiding evil." "Can this sort of practice lead to immortality?" asked Wukong. "Impossible, impossible," said the patriarch. I won't learn it then," Wukong said. "How would it be," said the patriarch again, "if I taught you the practice of the schools division?" "What is the meaning of the schools division?" asked Wukong. "The schools division," the patriarch said, "includes the Confucians, the Buddhists, the Taoists, the dualists, the mohists, and the physicians. They read scriptures or recite prayers. They interview priests or conjure up saints and the like." "Can this sort of practice lead to immortality?" asked Wukong. The patriarch said, "If immortality is what you desire, this practice is like setting a pillar inside a wall." Wukong said, "Master, I'm a simple fellow, and I don't know the idioms of the marketplace. What's setting a pillar inside a wall?" The patriarch said, "When people build houses and want them to be sturdy, they place a pillar as a prop inside the wall. But someday the big mansion will decay, and the pillar too will rot." "What you're saying then," Wukong said, "is that it is not long-lasting. I'm not going to learn this." The patriarch said, "How would it be if I taught you the practice of the silence division?" "What's the aim of the silence division?" Wukong asked. "To cultivate fasting and abstinence," said the patriarch, "quiescence and inactivity, meditation and the art of cross-legged sitting, restraint of language, and a vegetarian diet. There are also the practices of yoga, exercises standing or prostrate, entrance into complete stillness, contemplation in solitary confinement, and the like. Can these activities," asked Wukong, "bring about immortality?" "They are no better than the unfired bricks on the kiln," said the patriarch. Wukong laughed and said, "Master indeed loves to beat about the bush. Haven't I just told you that I don't know these idioms of the marketplace? What do you mean by the unfired bricks on the kiln?" The patriarch replied, "The tiles in the bricks on the kiln may have been molded into shape, but if they have not been refined by water and fire, a heavy rain will one day make them crumble." "So this too lacks permanence," said Wukong. "I don't want to learn it." The patriarch said, "How would it be if I taught you the practice of the action division?" "What's it like in the action division?" Wukong asked. "Plenty of activities," said the patriarch, "such as gathering the yin to nourish the yang, bending the bow and treading the arrow, and rubbing the navel to pass breath. There are also experimentation with alchemical formulas, burning rushes and forging cauldrons, taking red lead, making autumn stone, and drinking bride's milk and the like. Can such bring about long life? Asked Wukong. To obtain immortality from such activities, said the patriarch, is also like scooping the moon from the water. There you go again, master, cried Wukong. What do you mean by scooping the moon from the water? The patriarch said, when the moon is high in the sky, its reflection is in the water. Although it is visible therein, you cannot scoop it out or catch hold of it, for it is but an illusion. I won't learn that either, said Wukong. When the patriarch heard this, he uttered a cry and jumped down from the high platform. He pointed the ruler he held in his hands at Wukong and said to him, what a mischievous monkey you are. You won't learn this and you won't learn that. Just what is it that you are waiting for? Moving forward, he hit Wukong 3 times on the head. Then he folded his arms behind his back and walked inside, closing the main doors behind him and leaving the congregation stranded outside. Those who were listening to the lecture were so terrified that everyone began to berate Wukong. You reckless ape, they cried. You're utterly without manners. The master was prepared to teach you magic secrets. Why weren't you willing to learn? Why did you have to argue with him instead? Now you have offended him, and who knows when he'll come out again. At that moment, they all resented him and despised and ridiculed him. But Wukong was not angered in the least, and only replied with a broad grin. For the Monkey King, in fact, had already solved secretly, as it were, the riddle in the pot. He therefore did not quarrel with the other people, but patiently held his tongue. He reasoned that the master, by hitting him 3 times, was telling him to prepare himself for the 3rd watch, and by holding his arms behind his back, walking inside, and closing the main doors, was telling him to enter by the back door so that he might receive instruction in secret. Wukong spent the rest of the day happily with the other pupils in front of the divine cave of the 3 stars, eagerly waiting for the night. When evening arrived, he immediately retired with all the others, pretending to be asleep by closing his eyes, breathing heavily, and remaining completely still. Since there was no watchman in the mountain to beat the watch or call the hour, he could not tell what time it was. He could only rely on his own calculations by counting the breaths he inhaled and exhaled. Approximately at the hour of Z, he arose very quietly and put on his clothes. Stealthily opening the front door, he slipped away from the crowd and walked outside. Lifting his head, he saw the bright moon and the cool, clear dew, though in each corner not one speck of dust. Sheltered foals roosted in the woods. A brook flowed gently from its source. Darting fireflies dispersed the gloom. Wild geese spread word columns through the clouds. Precisely it was the 3rd watch hour. Time to seek the way, whole and true. You see him following the familiar path back to the rear entrance, where he discovered that the door was indeed ajar. Wukong said happily, the Reverend Master truly intended to give me instruction. That's why the door was left open. He reached the door in a few large strides and entered sideways. Walking up to the patriarch's bed, he found him asleep with his body curled up facing the wall. Wukong dared not disturb him. Instead, he knelt before his bed. After a little while, the patriarch awoke. Stretching his legs, he recited to himself, hard, 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 the way is most obscure. Deem not the gold elixir a common thing. Without a perfect man's transmitting a subtle rune, you'd have vain words, worn mouth, and tongue waxed dry. Master, Wukong responded at once, your pupil has been kneeling here and waiting on you for a long time. When the patriarch heard Wukong's voice, he rose and put on his clothes. You mischievous monkey, he exclaimed, sitting down cross-legged. Why aren't you sleeping in front? What are you doing back here at my place? Wukong replied, before the platform and the congregation yesterday, the master gave the order that your pupil, at the hour of the 3rd watch, should come here through the rear entrance in order that he might be instructed. I was therefore bold enough to come directly to the master's bed. When the patriarch heard this, he was terribly pleased, thinking to himself, this fellow is indeed an offspring of heaven and earth. If not, how could he solve so readily the riddle in my pot? There is no 3rd party here save your pupil, Wukong said. May the master be exceedingly merciful and impart to me the way of long life. I shall never forget this gracious favor. Since you have solved the riddle in the pot, said the patriarch, it is an indication that you are destined to learn, and I am glad to teach you. Come closer and listen carefully. I will impart to you the wondrous way of long life. Wukong kowtowed to express his gratitude, washed his ears, and listened most attentively, kneeling before the bed. Bear with me. I'm going to drink some tea. Oh, and I have a different mug today. It's a Chinese mug. One of my friends got it when they were in China. So it looks like it's giving other people issues, huh? Sorry, guys. All right. The patriarch said, "This bold secret saying that's wondrous and true. Spare, nurse nature and life, there's nothing else. All power resides in the semen, breath, and spirit." Yes, that semen. "Store these securely lest there be a leak. Keep within the body. Heed my teaching, and the way itself will thrive. Hold fast oral formulas so useful and keen to purge concupiscence? I have no idea what this word is. To reach pure cool. To pure cool, where the light is bright, you'll face the elixir platform, enjoying the moon. The moon holds the jade rabbit, the sun, the crow. The tortoise and snake are now tightly entwined. Nature and life are strong. You can plant gold lotus even in the midst of flames. Squeeze the 5 phases jointly, use them back and forth. When that's done, be a Buddha or immortal at will." At that moment, the very origin was disclosed to Wukong, whose mind became spiritualized as blessedness came to him. He carefully committed to memory all the oral formulas. After kowtowing to thank the patriarch, he left by the rear entrance. As he went out, he saw that the eastern sky began to pale with light, but golden beams shone on the westward way. Following the same path, he returned to the front door, pushed it open quietly, and went inside. He sat up in his sleeping place and purposely rustled the bed and the covers, crying, it's light, get up." All the other people were still sleeping and did not know what Wukong had received a good thing. He played the fool that day after getting up, but he persisted in what he had learned secretly by doing breathing exercises before the hour of Z and after the hour of Wu. 3 years went by swiftly, and the patriarch again mounted his throne to lecture to the multitude. He discussed the scholastic deliberations and parables, and he discoursed on the integument of external conduct. Suddenly he asked, "Where's Wukong?" Wukong drew near and knelt down. "Your pupil's here," he said. "What sort of art have you been practicing lately?" The patriarch asked. "Recently," Wukong said, "your pupil has begun to apprehend the nature of all things, and my foundational knowledge has become firmly established. If you have penetrated to the Dharma nature to apprehend the origin," said the patriarch, "you have, in fact, entered into the divine substance. You need, however, to guard against the danger of 3 calamities." When Wukong heard this, he thought for a long time and said, "The words of the master must be erroneous. I have frequently heard that when one is learned in the way and excels in virtue, he will enjoy the same age as heaven. Fire and water cannot harm him, and every kind of disease will vanish. How can there be this danger of 3 calamities?" "What you have learned," said the patriarch, "is no ordinary magic. You have stolen the creative powers of heaven and earth and invaded the dark mysteries of the sun and moon. Your success in perfecting the elixir is something that the gods and the demons cannot countenance. Though your appearance will be preserved and your age lengthened, after 500 years, heaven will send down the calamity of thunder to strike you. Hence, you must be intelligent and wise enough to avoid it ahead of time. If you can escape it, your age will indeed equal that of heaven. If not, your life will thus be finished. After another 500 years, heaven will send down the calamity of fire to burn you. That fire is neither natural nor common fire. Its name is the fire of yin, and it arises from within the soles of your feet to reach even the cavity of your heart, reducing your entrails to ashes and your limbs to utter ruin. The arduous labor of a millennium will then have been made completely superfluous. After another 500 years, the calamity of wind will be sent to blow at you. It is not the wind from the north, south, east, or west, nor is it one of the winds of four seasons, nor is it the wind of flowers, willows, pines, and bamboos. It is called the mighty wind, and it enters from the top of the skull into the body, passes through the midriff, and penetrates the 9 apertures. The bones and the flesh will be dissolved, and the body itself will disintegrate. You must therefore avoid all 3 calamities. When Wukong heard this, his hairs stood on end, and kowtowing reverently, he said, "I beg the master to be merciful and impart to me the method to avoid the 3 calamities. To the very end, I shall never forget your gracious favor." The patriarch said, "It is not, in fact, difficult, except that I cannot teach you, because you are somewhat different from other people." "I have a round head pointing to heaven," said Wukong, "and square feet walking on earth. Similarly, I have 9 apertures and 4 limbs, entrails, and cavities. In what way am I different from other people?" The patriarch said, "Though you resemble a man, you have much less jowl. The monkey, you see, has an angular face with hollow cheeks and a pointed mouth." Stretching his hand to feel himself, Wukong laughed and said, "The master does not know how to balance matters. Though I have much less jowl than human beings, I have my pouch, which may certainly be considered a compensation." "Very well, then," said the patriarch. "What method of escape would you like to learn?" "There is the art of the heavenly ladle, which numbers 36 transformations, and there is the art of the earthly multitude, which numbers 72 transformations." Wukong said, "Your pupil is always eager to catch more fishes, so I'll learn the art of the earthly multitude." "In that case," said the patriarch, "come up here and I'll pass on the oral formulas to you." He then whispered something into his ear, though we do not know what sort of wondrous secrets he spoke of. But this Monkey King was someone who, knowing one thing, could understand 100. He immediately learned the oral formulas, and after working at them and practicing them himself, he mastered all 72 transformations. One day, when the patriarch and the various pupils were admiring the evening view in front of the 3 Stars Cave, the master asked, "Wukong, has that matter been perfected?" Wukong said, "Thanks to the profound kindness of the master, your pupil has indeed attained perfection. I now can ascend like mist into the air and fly." The patriarch said, "Let me see you try to fly." Wishing to display his ability, Wukong leapt 50 or 60 feet into the air, pulling himself up with a somersault. He trod on the clouds for about the time of a meal and traveled a distance of no more than 3 miles before dropping down again to stand before the patriarch. "Master," he said, his hands folded in front of him, "this is flying by cloud soaring." Laughing, the patriarch said, "This can't be called cloud soaring. It's more like cloud crawling. The old saying goes, the immortal tours the North Sea in the morning and reaches Kangwoo by night. If it takes you half a day to go less than 3 miles, it can't even be considered cloud crawling." Bear with me. Is everybody okay in chat? I got a weird message, so I just want to be sure. Cliff, that would be your answer. All right. No chat, you're only monkey. Okay, smartasses. I'll just keep reading. "What do you mean?" asked Wukong, "by saying the immortal tours the North Sea in the morning and reaches Kangwoo by night?" The patriarch said, "Those who are capable of cloud soaring may start from the North Sea in the morning, journey through the East Sea, the West Sea, the South Sea, and return again to Kangwoo. Kang Wu refers to Ling Ling in the North Sea. It can be called true cloud soaring only when you can traverse all 4 seas in one day. That's truly difficult, said Wukong. Truly difficult. Nothing in the world is difficult, said the patriarch. Only the mind makes it so. Okay, Yoda. When Wukong heard these words, he kowtowed reverently and implored the patriarch, Master, if you do perform a service for someone, you must do it thoroughly. May you be most merciful and impart to me also this technique of cloud soaring. I would never dare forget your gracious favor. The patriarch said, when the various immortals want to soar on the clouds, they all rise by stamping their feet. But you're not like them. When I saw you leave just now, you had to pull yourself up by jumping. What I'll do now is to teach you the cloud somersault in accordance with your form. Wukong again prostrated himself and pleaded with him, and the patriarch gave him an oral formula, saying, Magic the magic sign, recite the spell. Make the magic sign, recite the spell, clench your fist tightly, shake your body, and when you jump up, one somersault will carry you 180,000 miles. When the other people heard this, they all giggled and said, Lucky Wukong. If he learns this little trick, he can become a dispatcher for someone to deliver documents or carry circulars. He'll be able to make a living anywhere. The sky now began to darken, and the master went back to the cave dwelling with his pupils. Throughout the night, however, Wukong practiced ardently and mastered the technique of cloud somersault. From then on, he had complete freedom, blissfully enjoying his state of long life. One day, early in the summer, the disciples were gathered under the pine trees for fellowship and discussion. They said to him, Wukong, what sort of merit did you accumulate in another incarnation that led the master to whisper in your ear the other day, the method of avoiding the 3 calamities? Have you learned everything? I won't conceal this from my various elder brothers, Wukong said, laughing. Owing to the master's instruction in the first place, and my diligence day and night in the second, I have fully mastered the several matters. Let's take advantage of the moment, one of the pupils said. You try to put on a performance and we'll watch. When Wukong heard this, his spirit was aroused, and he was most eager to display his powers. I invite the various elder brothers to give me a subject, he said. What do you want me to change into? Why not a pine tree, they said. Wukong made the magic sign and recited the spell. With one shake of his body, he changed himself into a pine tree. Truly it was thickly held in smoke through all 4 seasons. Its chaste fair form soars straight to the clouds. With not the least likeness to the impish monkey, its all frost-tried and snow-tested branches. When the multitude saw this, they clapped their hands and roared with laughter, everyone crying, Marvelous monkey, marvelous monkey. They did not realize that all this uproar had disturbed the patriarch, who came running out of the door dragging his staff. Who is creating this bedlam here? He demanded. At his voice, the pupils immediately collected themselves, set their clothes in order, and came forward. Wukong also changed back into his true form, and slipping into the crowd, he said, For your information, Reverend Master, we are having fellowship and discussion here. There is no one from outside causing any disturbance. You were all yelling and screaming, said the patriarch angrily, and were behaving in a manner totally unbecoming to those practicing cultivation. Don't you know that those in the cultivation of Tao resist, opening their mouths lest they waste their breath and spirit, or moving their tongues lest they provoke arguments? Why are you all laughing noisily here? We dare not conceal this from the master, the crowd said. Just now we were having fun with Wukong, who was giving us a performance of transformation. We told him to change into a pine tree, and he did indeed become a pine tree. Your pupils were all applauding him, and our voices disturbed the reverend teacher. We beg his forgiveness. Go away, all of you, the patriarch said. You, Wukong, come over here. I ask you, what sort of exhibition were you putting on, changing into a pine tree? This ability you now possess, is it just for showing off to people? Suppose you saw someone with this ability. Wouldn't you ask him at once how he acquired it? So when others see that you are in possession of it, they'll come begging. If you're afraid to refuse them, you will give away the secret. If you don't, they may hurt you. You are actually placing your life in grave jeopardy. I beseech the master to forgive me, Wukong said, kowtowing. I won't condemn you, said the patriarch, but you must leave this place. When Wukong heard this, tears fell from his eyes. Where am I to go, teacher? He asked. From wherever you came, the patriarch said. You should go back there. I came from the East Purva continent, Wukong said, his memory jolted by the patriarch, from the water curtain cave of the flower fruit mountain in the Aulai country. Go back there quickly and save your life, the patriarch said. You cannot possibly remain here. Allow me to inform my esteemed teacher, said Wukong, properly penitent. I have been away from home for 20 years, and I certainly long to see my subjects and followers of bygone days again. But I keep thinking that my master's profound kindness to me has not yet been repaid. I, therefore, dare not leave. There's nothing to be repaid, said the patriarch. See that you don't get into trouble and involve me. That's all I ask. Seeing that there was no other alternative, Wukong had to bow to the patriarch and take leave of the congregation. Once you leave, the patriarch said, you're bound to end up evil-doing. I don't care what kind of villainy and violence you engage in, but I forbid you ever to mention that you are my disciple. For if you but utter half the word, I'll know about it. You can be assured, wretched monkey, that you'll be skinned alive. I will break all your bones and banish your soul to the place of ninefold darkness, from which you will not be released even after 10,000 afflictions. I will never dare mention my master, said Wukong. I'll say that I've learned this all by myself. Having thanked the patriarch, Wukong turned away, made the magic sign, pulled himself up, and performed the cloud somersault. He headed straight toward the East Purva, and in less than an hour he could already see the flower fruit mountain and the water curtain cave. Rejoicing secretly, the handsome Monkey King said to himself, I left weighed down by bones of mortal stock. The Tao attained makes light both body and frame. 'Tis this world's pity that none firmly resolves to learn such mystery that by itself is plain. 'Twas hard to cross the seas in former time. Returning this day I travel with ease. Words of farewell still echo in my ears. I never hope to see so soon the eastern depths. Wukong lowered the direction of his cloud and landed squarely on the flower fruit mountain. He was trying to find his way when he heard the calls of cranes and the cry of monkeys. The calls of cranes reverberated in the heavens, and the cry of monkeys moved his spirit with sadness. Little ones, he called out, I have returned. From the crannies of the cliff, from the flowers and bushes, and from the woods and trees, monkeys great and small leapt out by the tens of thousands and surrounded the handsome Monkey King. They all kowtowed and cried, Great King, what laxity of mind! Why did you go away for such a long time and leave us here longing for your return like someone hungering and thirsting? Recently, we have been brutally abused by a monster who wanted to rob us of our water curtain cave. Out of sheer desperation, we fought hard with him, and yet all this time that fellow has plundered many of our possessions, kidnapped a number of our young ones, and given us many restless days and nights watching over our property. How fortunate that our king has returned. If the great king had stayed away another year or so, we and the entire mountain cave would have belonged to someone else. Hearing this, Wukong was filled with anger. What sort of a monster is this, he cried, that behaves in such a lawless manner? Tell me in detail, and I will find him to exact vengeance. Be informed, great king, the monkey said, kowtowing, that the fellow calls himself the monstrous king of havoc, and he lives north of here. Wukong asked, from here to his place, how great is the distance? The monkeys replied, he comes like the cloud and leaves like the mist, like the wind and the rain, like lightning and thunder. We don't know how great the distance is. In that case, said Wukong, go and play for a while and don't be afraid. Let me go and find him. Dear Monkey King, he leapt up with a bound and somersaulted all the way northward until he saw a tall and rugged mountain. What a mountain! Its pen-like peak stands erect. Its winding streams flow unfathomed and deep. Its pen-like peak, standing erect, cuts through the air. Its winding streams, unfathomed and deep, reach diverse sights on earth. On two ridges, flowers rival trees in exotic charm. At various spots, pines match bamboos in green. The dragon on the left seems docile and tame. The tiger on the right seems gentle and meek. Iron oxen, on occasion, are seen plowing. Gold coin flowers are frequently planted. Rare foals make melodious songs. The phoenix stands facing the sun. Rocks worn smooth and shiny by water placid and bright appear by turns grotesque, bizarre, and fierce. In countless numbers are the world's famous mountains. Where flowers bloom and wither, they flourish and die. What place resembles this long-lasting scene, wholly untouched by the 4 seasons and 8 epochs? This is, in the 3 regions, the Mount of Northern Spring, the Waterbelly Cave, nourished by the 5 phases. The handsome Monkey King was silently viewing the scenery when he heard someone speaking. He went down the mountain to find who it was, and he discovered the Waterbelly Cave at the foot of a steep cliff. Several imps were dancing in the front of the cave, saw Wukong and began to run away. "Stop," cried Wukong. "You can use the words of your mouth to communicate the thoughts of your mind." The thoughts of my mind. "I am the lord of the Water Curtain Cave in the Flower Fruit Mountains south of here. Your monstrous king of havoc, or whatever he's called, has repeatedly bullied my young ones, and I have found my way here with the specific purpose of settling matters with him." Hearing this, the imps darted into the cave and cried out, "Great king, a disastrous thing has happened." "What sort of disaster?" asked the monstrous king. "Outside the cave," said the imps, "there is a monkey who calls himself the Lord of the Water Curtain Cave in the Flower Fruit Mountain. He says that you have repeatedly bullied his young ones and that he has come to settle matters with you." Laughing, the monstrous king said, "I have often heard those monkeys say that they have a great king who has left the family to practice self-cultivation. He must have come back. How is he dressed, and what kind of weapon does he have?" "He doesn't have any kind of weapon," the imp said. "He is bareheaded, wears a red robe with a yellow sash, and has a pair of black boots on. He looks like neither a monk nor a layman, neither a Taoist nor an immortal. He is out there making demands with naked hands and empty fists." When the monstrous king heard this, he ordered, "Get me my armor and my weapon." These were immediately brought out by the imps, and the monstrous king put on his breastplate and helmet, grasped his scimitar, and walked out of the cave with his followers. "Who is the lord of the Water Curtain Cave?" he cried with a loud voice. Quickly opening wide his eyes to take a look, Wukong saw that the monstrous king wore on his head a black gold helmet, which gleamed in the sun, and on his body a dark silk robe, which swayed in the wind. Lower he had on a black iron vest, tied tightly with leather straps. His feet were shod in finely carved boots, grand as those of warriors great. 10 spans the width of his waist, 30 feet the height of his frame. He held in his hands a sword. Its blade was fine and bright. His name, the Monster of Havoc, of most fearsome form and look. "You have such big eyes, reckless monster, but you can't even see Old Monkey," the Monkey King shouted. When the monstrous king saw him, he laughed and said, "You're not 4 feet tall, nor are you 30 years old. You don't even have weapons in your hands. How dare you be so insolent, looking for me to settle accounts?" "You reckless monster," cried Wukong. "You are blind indeed. You think I'm small, not knowing that it's hardly difficult for me to become taller. You know I'm without weapon, but my 2 hands can drag the moon down from the edge of heaven. Don't be afraid. Just have a taste of Old Monkey's fist." He leapt into the air and aimed a blow smack up at the monster's face. Parrying the blow with his hand, the monstrous king said, "You are such a midget and I'm so tall. You want to use your fist, but I have my scimitar. If I were to kill you with it, I would be a laughingstock. Let me put down my scimitar and we'll see how well you can box." "Well said, fine fellow," replied Wukong. "Come on." The monstrous king shifted his position and struck out. Wukong closed in on him, hurtling himself into the engagement. The 2 of them pummeled and kicked, struggling and colliding with each other. It is easy to miss on a long reach, but a short punch is firm and reliable. Wukong jabbed the monstrous king in the short ribs, hit him on his chest, and gave him such heavy punishment with a few sharp blows that the monster stepped aside, picked up his huge scimitar, aimed it straight at Wukong's head, and slashed at him. Wukong dodged, and the blow narrowly missed him. Seeing that his opponent was growing fiercer, Wukong now used the method called the body beyond the body. Plucking a handful of hairs from his own body and throwing them into his mouth, he chewed them to tiny pieces and then spat them into the air. "Change," he cried, and they changed at once into 200 or 300 little monkeys, encircling the combatants on all sides. For you see, when someone acquires the body of an immortal, he can project his spirit, change his form, and perform all kinds of wonders. Since the Monkey King had become accomplished in the way, every one of the 84,000 hairs on his body could change into whatever shape or substance he desired. The little monkeys he had just created were so keen of eye and so swift of movement that they could be wounded by neither sword nor spear. Look at them. Skipping and jumping, they rushed at the monstrous king and surrounded him, some hugging, some pulling, some crawling in between his legs, some tugging at his feet. They kicked and punched. They yanked at his hair and poked at his eyes. They pinched his nose and tried to sweep him completely off his feet until they tangled themselves into confusion. Meanwhile, Wukong succeeded in snatching the scimitar, pushed through the throng of little monkeys, and brought the scimitar down squarely onto the monster's skull, cleaving it in two. He and the rest of the monkeys then fought their way into the cave and slaughtered all the imps, young and old. With a shake, he collected his hair back onto his body, but there were some monkeys that did not return to him. They were the little monkeys kidnapped by the monstrous king from Water Curtain Cave. "Why are you here?" asked Wukong. The 30 or 50 of them all said tearfully, "After the great king went away to seek the way of immortality, the monster menaced us for 2 whole years and finally carried us off to this place. Don't these utensils belong to our cave? These stone pots and bowls were all taken by the creature." "If these are our belongings," said Wukong, "move them out of here." He then set fire to the water-belly cave and reduced it to ashes. "All of you," he said to them, "follow me home." "Great king," the monkeys said, "when we came here, all we felt was wind rushing past us, and we seemed to float through the air until we arrived here. We don't know the way. How can we go back to our home?" Wukong said, "That's a magic trick of his, but there's no difficulty. Now I know not only one thing, but 100. I'm familiar with that trick too. Close your eyes, all of you, and don't be afraid." Dear Monkey King. He recited a spell, rode for a while on a fierce wind, and then lowered the direction of the cloud. "Little ones," he cried, "open your eyes." The monkeys felt solid ground beneath their feet and recognized their home territory. In great delight, every one of them ran back to the cave along the familiar roads and crowded in together with those waiting in the cave. They then lined up according to age and rank and paid tribute to the Monkey King. Wine and fruits were laid out for the welcome banquet. When asked how he had subdued the monster and rescued the young ones, Wukong presented a detailed rehearsal, and the monkeys broke into unending applause. "Where did you go, great king?" they cried. "We never expected that you would acquire such skills." "The year I left you all," Wukong said, "I drifted with the waves across the great Eastern Ocean and reached the West Aparagodania continent. I then arrived at the South Jambudvipa continent, where I learned human ways, wearing this garment and those shoes, these shoes. I swaggered along with the clouds for 8 or 9 years, but I had yet to learn the great art. I then crossed the great Western Ocean and reached the West Aparagodania continent. After searching for a long time, I had the good fortune to discover an old patriarch who imparted to me the formula for enjoying the same age as heaven, the secret of immortality. Such luck is hard to meet even after 10,000 afflictions." The monkeys said, all congratulating him. "Little ones," Wukong said, laughing again, "another delight is that our entire family now has a name." "What is the name of the great king?" "My surname is Sun," replied Wukong, "and my religious name is Wukong." When the monkeys heard this, they all clapped their hands and shouted happily, "If the great king is elder son, then we are all junior sons. Sons the third, small sons, tiny sons, the Sun family, the Sun nation, and the Sun cave. So they all came and honored elder son with large and small bowls of coconut and grape wine, of divine flowers and fruits. It was indeed one big happy family. Lo, the surname is one, the self's return to its source. This glory awaits, a name recorded in heaven. We do not know what the result was and how Wukong would fare in this realm. Let's listen to the explanation in the next chapter. Whew. These chapters are long-winded. Okay. Let me catch up with you guys. How was that chapter? Does everybody understand what's going on? Okay, I scrolled way too fast. Hey, what's up, Gravy D? If you're still here. Hi. Long chapter. Me not talking so much. What's up, Kel? Oh, yeah, stream yards. Let me stream elements. Whatever. Let me do something. I'm going to see. Log in. Okay, I logged out and logged back in. Let's see. It's so weird. Are you guys all trying on your phones? Maybe it's not communicating with the phones. At least on my computer, it's working. But let me do the thing. Yes, phone. I unlocked you, so now you have to give me 25 notifications for no reason. Thanks. Do, do, do. Do, do, do. Okay, let me... Super weird. I don't know. It's not giving me issues, but it's probably because I'm logged in. I don't know. Sorry, guys. You know what? It's the thought that counts, so I appreciate it. Yes, Dom, it is not just you. After you hit the pay button, it went, oh, interesting. I guess I was unaware of where the issue was at and did not ask. So it's when you go to pay, it's not doing it. That's fun. That's been happening since they offered dark mode to certain users. Well, that's StreamYard. For Stream Elements, I don't know if it works the same way. I don't know. I know that sometimes Dermy has had issues with his Stream Elements, like way back. So I don't know. And hello, Cliff. Thank you for my snacks that you gave at some point earlier that I did see. I appreciate it. Are you sure you don't want me to answer that? Oh, there's my snacks. And monkey, huh? Gotta shock the monkey. Mudcrab, you're back. Hello. How's it going? Like what, 8 in the morning or something there? Or even later? You don't read, so you don't know, huh? That's a good question, Dom. How many chapters from the last book can fit in this last chapter from this book? This is actually the same. I think might even be a page shorter than the first chapter. Or maybe it's vice versa. The first chapter was a page shorter. Phone and computer. Duly noted. Well, Stream Elements sucks and screw them. And yeah, blame Obama. I'm fine with that. You do spoil me. I appreciate it. 10:30. Okay. I was a little off, but it was close. You had a question about the book that I didn't answer. Are you talking about the chapters? The one that I just answered? Or was there a different one? Say the question again. Make it easy on me. Yes, tea this time. No. So what's the question? This is a lot of comments to scroll through, Dom. So that was what, about 50-minute chapter? Interesting. So why does the patriarch kick him out exactly? Like a responsibility thing. Basically, he was showing off his abilities to the crowd kind of for showing off sake, the vanity of it. So to the patriarch, he doesn't trust him with the knowledge anymore, because if someone outside of their, I almost said coven, outside of their community, I guess, were to see that, they would get curious, like, how do you do that? And start asking questions. And so it puts danger on him telling them, these random outsiders, where he learned it from, or if he doesn't, it puts danger upon himself, because they might get angry that he's not telling them, because they want to learn as well. So it gives away their secret one way or another. They might torture it out of him, or he might die. So it becomes a responsibility issue, or for hate speech. Spoil and force him to give them away or receive physical pain. I would not hurt you much. Does that answer your question, Dom? Where was that question? Oh, found it. It was right before fight. Gotcha. I scrolled too fast. I'm sorry, Dom. Don't you two team up? So what'd you guys think? There's a lot of information, but you learned that Goku, I mean Wukong, is a fast learner. I'm surprised he didn't name the cloud Nimbus. Yes, blue-eyed Scorpio. Everything you say is reasonable. I'll give you that. Others might not give you that, but I will. Crazy he was gone for 20 years and his monkey still expected him to come back. Hey, he led them for a while, I think. And they trusted him, although they were losing their faith. I wonder if it did say the time. "300 or 400 years, when one day, while feasting with the rest of the monkeys, he suddenly grew sad and shed a few tears." Okay. So supposedly they lived for 300 or 400 years. So I guess 20 years isn't all that long in comparison. I'm going to look at something. See, when I go back to the first part of the chapter, it makes me do math, so I can't quickly divide it for you. So next time around, before next time around, I may try and figure this out. I just have to sit down and work through it. Because it says each epic has 10,800 years in it. The horary cycle sequence would be thus. The first sign of dawn appears in the hour of Z. Oh, yeah. And Wu would be the last one, right? Oh, no. Wu. The sun arrives at its meridian. Okay. So it was morning and noon earlier when he was like doing his studying. Or not morning. Dawn. Which is technically morning, I guess. In the middle of Z, when to the middle of Z, winter moved. No change by heaven's mind had been approved. The male principle had but barely stirred, but the birth of all things was still deferred. Hey, that one's more of a poem. Okay, with another 5,400 years came the Z epic. At this point, the firmament. It's interesting. Can CJ translate it for me? Do my math for me, CJ. You've read it before. Please. I'm going to refresh my tea, and then we will move to the next chapter. And no, 2 + 2 does not equal 5. BRB. I can't believe I just said that. Be right back, guys. I totally forgot to show you guys my shirt. It is way too big for me, but I have to be on theme because I actually like this book so far. Where's Maze? He's surprisingly good at maths. I'll believe that when I see it. And he's not here to say yay or nay, so check stream minutes. Good. All right. Well, apparently Stream Elements does seem to be working now. Kel for 1776. I like it, sir. You read Monkey Book good. YUREED. Monkey, as has been spelled in chat earlier. Hey, at least book was spelled right. Well done. GUD for good. I like it. I don't, and it hurts my soul. But I do like it for the comedy of it. Thank you, Kel. And Dom for 30. Thank you. Let's see if it works. Well, it did. You had to copy the link and go to the browser instead of through YouTube. What the crap? That's weird. You're still not a fan of the circle? I'll take it into account. Thank you for figuring it out, Kel and Dom and everybody. But does it not look like a bullseye? Yeah, I'm right on target. Right. Oh, he's good at math. He just can't read. Well, I know that. I am aware. So it's probably just a conflict between YouTube and Stream Elements. It's weird because it does take you to the site though, right? Because it does for me. I don't try and put money through though, so. Oh, it worked regular for you. Maybe whatever. Friggin' Stream Elements. Triangle's the best angle. Okay. I am doing what I want. Whatever, I do what I want. And speaking of, Chapter 3. Actually, I'm going to check something. Yeah, about the same. Okay. 4 seas and 1,000 mountains all bow to submit. From the ninefold darkness, 10 species' names are removed. Now we were speaking of the handsome monkey king's triumphant return to his home country. After slaying the monstrous king of havoc and wresting from him his huge scimitar, he practiced daily with the little monkeys the art of war, teaching them how to sharpen bamboos for making spears, file wood for making swords, arrange flags and banners, go on patrol, advance or retreat, and pitch camp. For a long time he played thus with them. Suddenly he grew quiet and sat down, thinking out loud to himself. The game we are playing here may turn out to be something quite serious. Suppose we disturb the rulers of humans or of foals and beasts, and they become offended. Suppose they say that these military exercises of ours are subversive and raise an army to destroy us. How can we meet them with our bamboo spears and wooden swords? We must have sharp swords and fine halberds. But what can be done at this moment? When the monkeys heard this, they were all alarmed. The great king's observation is very sound, they said, but where can we obtain these things? As they were speaking, 4 older monkeys came forward, 2 female monkeys with red buttocks, and 2 bareback gibbons. Coming to the front, they said, "Great king, to be furnished with sharp-edged weapons is a very simple matter." "How is it simple?" asked Wukong. The 4 monkeys replied, "East of our mountain, across 200 miles of water, is the boundary of the Aolai country. In that country there is a king who has numberless men and soldiers in his city, and there are bound to be all kinds of metalworks there. If the great king goes there, he can either buy weapons or have them made. Then you can teach us how to use them for the protection of our mountain, and this will be the stratagem for assuring ourselves of perpetuity." When Wukong heard this, he was filled with delight. "Play here, all of you," he said. "Let me make a trip." Dear Monkey King. He quickly performed his cloud somersault and crossed the 200 miles of water in no time. On the other side, he did indeed discover a city with broad streets and huge marketplaces, countless houses, and numerous arches. Under the clear sky and bright sun, people were coming and going constantly. Wukong thought to himself, there must be ready-made weapons around here, but going down there to buy a few pieces of them is not as good a bargain as acquiring them by magic. He therefore made the magic sign and recited a spell. Facing the ground on the southwest, he took a deep breath and then blew it out. At once, it became a mighty wind, hurtling pebbles and rocks through the air. It was truly terrifying. Thick clouds in vast formation moved over the world. Black fog and dusty vapor darkened the earth. Waves churned in seas and rivers of frighting fishes and crabs. Boughs broke in mountain forests. Wolves and tigers taking flight. Traders and merchants were gone from stores and shops. No single man was seen at sundry marts and malls. The king retreated to his chamber from the royal court. Officials, martial and civil, returned to their homes. The wind toppled Buddha's throne of 1,000 years and shook to its foundations the 5 Phoenix Tower. The wind arose and separated the king from his subjects in the ally country. Throughout the various boulevards and marketplaces, every family bolted the doors and windows, and no one dared go outside. Wukong then lowered the direction of his cloud and rushed straight through the imperial gate. He found his way to the armory, knocked open the doors, and saw that there were countless weapons inside. Scimitars, spears, swords, halberds, battle axes, scythes, whips, rakes, drumsticks, drums, bows, arrows, forks, and lances. Every kind was available. Highly pleased, Wukong said to himself, "How many pieces can I possibly carry by myself? I'd better use the magic of body division to transport them." Dear Monkey King. He plucked a handful of hairs, chewed them to pieces in his mouth, and spat them out. Reciting the spell, he cried, "Change." They changed into thousands of little monkeys who snatched and grabbed the weapons. Those that were stronger took 6 or 7 pieces, the weaker ones 2 or 3 pieces, and together they emptied out the armory. Wukong then mounted the cloud and performed the magic of displacement by calling up a great wind, which carried all the little monkeys back to their home. We tell you now about the various monkeys, both great and small, who were playing outside the cave of the Flower Fruit Mountain. They suddenly heard the sound of wind and saw in midair a huge horde of monkeys approaching, the sight of which made them all flee in terror and hide. In a moment, Wukong lowered his cloud and, shaking himself, collected the pieces of hair back into his body. All the weapons were piled in front of the mountain. "Little ones," he shouted, "come and receive your weapons." The monkeys looked and saw Wukong standing alone on level ground. They came running to kowtow and ask what had happened. Wukong then recounted to them how he had made use of the mighty wind to transport the weapons. After expressing their gratitude, the monkeys all went to grab at the scimitars and snatch at the swords, to wield the axes and scramble for spears, to stretch the bows and mount the arrows. Shouting and screaming, they played all day long. The following day, they marched in formation as usual. Assembling the monkeys, Wukong found that there were 47,000 of them. This assembly greatly impressed all the wild beasts of the mountain: wolves, insects, tigers, leopards, mouse deer, fallow deer, river deer, foxes, wildcats, badgers, lions, elephants, apes, bears, I almost said beers, well done me, antelopes, boars, musk oxen, I have no idea what that word is, chamois, 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 green one-horned buffaloes, wild hares, and giant mastiffs. Led by the various demon kings of no fewer than 72 caves, they all came to pay homage to the Monkey King. Henceforth, they brought annual tributes and answered the roll call made every season. Some of them joined in the maneuvers, others supplied provisions in accordance with their rank. In an orderly fashion, they made the entire Flower Fruit Mountain as strong as an iron bucket or a city of metal. The various demon kings also presented metal drums, colored banners, and helmets. The hurly-burly of marching and drilling went on day after day. While the handsome Monkey King was enjoying all this, he suddenly said to the multitude, "You all have become adept with the bow and arrow and proficient in the use of weapons. But this scimitar of mine is truly cumbersome, not at all to my liking. What can I do?" The 4 elder monkeys came forward and memorialized. "The great king is a divine sage, and therefore it is not fit for him to use an earthly weapon. We do not know, however, whether the great king is able to take a journey through the water. Since I have known the way," said Wukong, "I have the ability of 72 transformations. The cloud somersault, The cloud somersault has unlimited power. I am familiar with the magic of body concealment and the magic of displacement. I can find my way to heaven, or I can enter the earth. I can walk past the sun and the moon without casting a shadow, and I can penetrate stone and metal without hindrance. Water cannot drown me, nor fire burn me. Is there any place I can't go to? It's a good thing that the great king possesses such powers, said the four monkeys, for the water below this sheet iron bridge of ours flows directly into the dragon palace of the Eastern Ocean. If you are willing to go down there, great king, you will find the old dragon king, from whom you may request some kind of weapon. Won't that be to your liking? Hearing this, Wukong said with delight, "Let me make the trip." Dear Monkey King. He jumped to the bridgehead and employed the magic of water restriction. Making the magic sign with his fingers, he leapt into the waves, which parted for him, and he followed the waterway straight to the bottom of the Eastern Ocean. As he was walking, he suddenly ran into a Yakta on patrol, who stopped him with the question, "What divine sage is this who comes pushing through the water? Speak plainly so that I can announce your arrival." Wukong said, "I am the heaven-born sage Sun Wukong of the Flower Fruit Mountain, a near neighbor of your old Dragon King. How is it that you don't recognize me?" When the Yaksa heard this, he hurried back to the Water Crystal Palace to report. "Great King," he said, "there is outside a heaven-born sage of the Flower Fruit Mountain named Sun Wukong. He claims that he is a near neighbor of yours, and he is about to arrive at the palace." Ao Guang, the Dragon King of the Eastern Ocean, arose immediately. Accompanied by dragon sons and grandsons, shrimp soldiers, and crab generals, he came out for the reception. "High Immortal," he said, "please come in." They went into the palace for proper introduction, and after offering Wukong the honored seat and tea, the king asked, "When did the High Immortal become accomplished in the way, and what kind of divine magic did he receive?" Wukong said, "Since the time of my birth, I have left the family to practice self-cultivation. I have now acquired a birthless and deathless body. Recently, I have been teaching my children how to protect our mountain cave, but unfortunately, I am without an appropriate weapon. I have heard that my noble neighbor, who has long enjoyed living in this green jade palace and its shell portals, must have many divine weapons to spare. I came specifically to ask for one of them." When the Dragon King heard this, he could hardly refuse. So he offered a perch commander to bring out a long-handled scimitar and presented it to his visitor. "Old Monkey doesn't know how to use a scimitar," said Wukong. I beg you to give me something else." The Dragon King then commanded a whiting lieutenant together with an eel porter to carry out a 9-pronged fork. Jumping down from his seat, Wukong took hold of it and tried a few thrusts. He put it down, saying, "Light, much too light, and it doesn't suit my hand. I beg you to give me another one." "High Immortal," said the Dragon King, laughing, "won't you even take a closer look? This fork weighs 3,600 pounds. "It doesn't suit my hand," Wukong said. "It doesn't suit my hand." The Dragon King was becoming rather fearful. He ordered a bream admiral and a carp brigadier to carry out a giant halberd, weighing 7,200 pounds. When he saw this, Wukong ran forward and took hold of it. He tried a few thrusts and parries and then stuck it in the ground, saying, "It's still light, much too light." The old Dragon King was completely unnerved. "High Immortal," he said, "there's no weapon in my palace heavier than this halberd." Laughing, Wukong said, as the old saying goes, who worries about the Dragon King's lacking treasures? "Go and look some more, and if you find something I like, I'll offer you a good price." "There really aren't any more here," said the Dragon King. As they were speaking, the Dragon Mother and her daughter slipped out and said, "Great King, we can see that this is definitely not a sage with meager abilities. Inside our ocean treasury is the piece of rare magic iron by which the depth of the heavenly river is fixed. These past few days, the iron has been glowing with a strange and lovely light. Could this be a sign that it should be taken out to meet this sage?" "That," said the Dragon King, "was the measure with which the great Yu fixed the depths of the rivers and oceans when he conquered the flood. It's a piece of magic iron, but of what use could it be to him?" "Let's not be concerned with whether he could find any use for it," said the Dragon Mother. "Let's give it to him, and he can do whatever he wants with it. The important thing is to get him out of this palace." The old Dragon King agreed and told Wukong the whole story. "Take it out and let me see it," said Wukong. Waving his hands, the Dragon King said, "We can't move it. We can't even lift it. The High Immortal must go there himself to take a look." "Where is it?" asked Wukong. "Take me there." The Dragon King accordingly led him to the center of the ocean treasury, where all at once they saw 1,000 shafts of golden light. Pointing to the spot, the Dragon King said, "That's it, the thing that is glowing." Wukong girded up his clothes and went forward to touch it. It was an iron rod more than 20 feet long and as thick as a barrel. Using all his might, he lifted it with both hands, saying, "It's a little too long and too thick. It would be more serviceable if it were somewhat shorter and thinner." Hardly had he finished speaking when the treasure shrunk a few feet in length and became a layer thinner. "Smaller still would be even better," said Wukong, giving it another bounce in his hands. Again, the treasure became smaller. Highly pleased, Wukong took it out of the ocean treasury to examine it. He found a golden hoop at each end, with solid black iron in between. Immediately adjacent to one of the hoops was the inscription, "The compliant golden hooped rod. Weight, 13,500 pounds. He thought to himself in secret delight, "This treasure, I suppose, must be most compliant with one's wishes." As he walked, he was deliberating in his mind and murmuring to himself, bouncing the rod in his hands. Shorter and thinner still would be marvelous. By the time he took it outside, the rod was no more than 20 feet in length and had the thickness of a rice bowl. See how he displayed his power now. He wielded the rod to make lunges and passes, engaging in mock combat all the way back to the Water Crystal Palace. The old Dragon King was so terrified that he shook with fear, and the dragon princes were all panic-stricken. Sea turtles and tortoises drew in their necks. Fishes, shrimps, and crabs all hid themselves. Wukong held the treasure in his hands and sat in the Water Crystal Palace. Laughing, he said to the Dragon King, "I am indebted to my good neighbor for his profound kindness." "Please don't mention it," said the Dragon King. "This piece of iron is very useful," said Wukong, "but I have one further statement to make." "What sort of statement does the High Immortal wish to make?" asked the Dragon King. Wukong said, "Had there been no such iron, I would have let the matter drop. Now that I have it in my hands, I can see that I am wearing the wrong kind of clothes to go with it. What am I to do? If you have any martial apparel, you might as well give me some too. I would thank you most heartily." "This, I confess, is not in my possession," said the Dragon King. Wukong said, "A solitary guest will not disturb two hosts. Even if you claim that you don't have any, I shall never walk out of this door." "Let the High Immortal take the trouble of going to another ocean," said the Dragon King. "He might turn up something there." "To visit 3 homes is not as convenient as sitting in one," said Wukong. "I beg you to give me one outfit." "I really don't have one," said the Dragon King, "for if I did, I would have presented it to you." "Is that so?" said Wukong. "Let me try the iron on you." "High Immortal," the Dragon King said nervously, Don't ever raise your hand. Don't ever raise your hand. Let me see whether my brothers have any, and we'll try to give you one." "Where are your honored brothers?" asked Wukong. "They are," said the Dragon King, "Aokin, Dragon King of the Southern Ocean, Aoshun, Dragon King of the Northern Ocean, and Aorun, Dragon King of the Western Ocean." "Old Monkey is not going to their places," said Wukong. "For as the common saying goes, 3 in bond can't compete with 2 in hand. I'm merely requesting that you find something casual here and give it to me. That's all." "There's no need for the High Immortal to go anywhere," said the Dragon King. "I have in my palace an iron drum and a golden bell. Whenever there is any emergency, we beat the drum and strike the bell, and my brothers are here shortly." "In that case," said Wukong, "go beat the drum and strike the bell." The Turtle General went at once to strike the bell, while the Tortoise Marshal came to beat the drum. Soon after the drum and the bell had sounded, the Dragon Kings of the 3 oceans got the message and arrived promptly, all congregating in the outer courtyard. "Elder brother," said Aokin, "what emergency made you beat the drum and strike the bell?" "Good brother," answered the old dragon, "it's a long story. We have here a certain heaven-born sage from the Flower Fruit Mountain, who came here and claimed to be my near neighbor. He subsequently demanded a weapon. The steel fork I presented he deemed too small, and the halberd I offered too light. Finally, he himself took that piece of rare divine iron by which the depth of the heavenly river was fixed and used it for mock combat. He is now sitting in the palace and also demanding some sort of battle dress. We have none of that here. So we sounded the drum and the bell to invite you all to come. If you happen to have some such outfit, please give it to him so that I can send him out of this door. When Alkine heard this, he was outraged. Let us, brothers, call our army together, he said, and arrest him. What's wrong with that? Don't talk about arresting him. The old dragon said, don't talk about arresting him. That piece of iron, a small stroke with it is deadly, and a light tap is fatal. The slightest touch will crack the skin, and a small rap will injure the muscles. Alrune, the dragon king of the Western Ocean, said, second elder brother should not raise his hand against him. Let us rather assemble an outfit for him and get him out of this place. We can then present a formal complaint to heaven, and heaven will send its own punishment. You are right, said Alshun, the dragon king of the Northern Ocean. I have here a pair of cloud-treading shoes the color of lotus root. Alrune, the dragon king of the Western Ocean, said, I brought along a cuirass of chainmail made of yellow gold. Anyone know what the color of lotus root is? Anyway, cuirass of chainmail made of yellow gold. And I have a cap with erect phoenix plumes made of red gold, said Alkine, the dragon king of the Southern Ocean. The old dragon king was delighted and brought them into the water crystal palace to present the gifts. Wukong duly put on the gold cap, the gold cuirass, and cloud-treading shoes, and wielding his compliant rod, he fought his way out in mock combat, yelling to the dragons, Sorry to have bothered you. The dragon kings of the four oceans were outraged, and they consulted together about filing a formal complaint, of which we make no mention here. Look at that monkey king. He opened up the waterway and went straight back to the head of the sheet iron bridge. The four old monkeys were leading the other monkeys and waiting beside the bridge. They suddenly beheld Wukong leaping out of the waves. There was not a drop of water on his body, and he walked onto the bridge, all radiant and golden. The various monkeys were so astonished that they all knelt down crying, Great King, what marvels, what marvels! Beaming broadly, Wukong ascended his high throne and set up the iron rod right in the center. Not knowing any better, the monkeys all came and tried to pick the treasure up. It was rather like a dragonfly attempting to shake an ironwood tree. They could not budge it an inch. Biting their fingers and sticking out their tongues, every one of them said, Oh, father, it's so heavy. How did you ever manage to bring it here? Wukong walked up to the rod, stretched forth his hands, and picked it up. Laughing, he said to them, Everything has its owner. This treasure has presided in the ocean treasury for who knows how many thousands of years, and it just happened to glow recently. The Dragon King only recognized it as a piece of black iron, though it is also said to be the divine rarity which fixed the bottom of the heavenly river. All those fellows together could not lift or move it, and they asked me to take it myself. At first, this treasure was more than 20 feet long and as thick as a barrel. After I struck it once and expressed my feeling that it was too large, it grew smaller. I wanted it smaller still, and again it grew smaller. For a third time, I commanded it, and it grew smaller still. When I looked at it in the light, it had on it the inscription, The Compliant Gold-Hooped Rod, weight 13,500 pounds. Stand aside, all of you. Let me ask it to go through some more transformations. He held the treasure in his hands and called out, Smaller, 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 and at once it shrank to the size of a tiny embroidery needle, small enough to be hidden inside the ear. Awestruck, the monkeys cried, Great King, take it out and play with it some more. The Monkey King took it out from his ear and placed it on his palm. Bigger, 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 he shouted, and again it grew to the thickness of a barrel and more than 20 feet long. He became so delighted playing with it that he jumped onto the bridge and walked out of the cave. Grasping the treasure in his hands, he began to perform the magic of cosmic imitation. Bending over, he cried, Grow, and at once grew to be 10,000 feet tall. With a head like the Tai Mountain and a chest like a rugged peak, eyes like lightning and a mouth like a blood bowl, and teeth like swords and halberds. The rod in his hands was of such a size that its top reached the 33rd heaven, and its bottom the 18th layer of hell. Tigers, leopards, wolves, and crawling creatures, all the monsters of the mountain, and the demon kings of the 72 caves, were so terrified that they kowtowed and paid homage to the Monkey King in fear and trembling. Presently, he revoked his magical appearance and changed the treasure back into a tiny embroidery needle stored in his ear. He returned to the cave dwelling, but the demon kings of the various caves were still frightened, and they continued to come to pay their respects. At this time, the banners were unfurled, the drums sounded, and the brass gongs struck loudly. A great banquet of 100 delicacies was given, and the cups were filled to overflowing with the fruit of the vines and the juices of the coconut. They drank and feasted for a long time, and they engaged in military exercises as before. The Monkey King made the 4 old monkeys mighty commanders of his troops by appointing the 2 female monkeys with red buttocks as marshals, Ma and Lu, and the 2 bareback gibbons as generals Bang and Ba. The 4 mighty commanders, moreover, were entrusted with all matters concerning fortification, pitching camps, reward, and punishment. Having settled all this, the Monkey King felt completely at ease to soar on the clouds and ride the mist, to tour the 4 seas and disport himself in 1,000 mountains. Displaying his martial skill, he made extensive visits to various heroes and warriors. Performing his magic, he made many good friends. At this time, moreover, he entered into fraternal alliance with 6 other monarchs: the Bull Monster King, the Dragon Monster King, the Garuda Monster King, and the Giant Lynx King, the Macaque King, Macaque King, and the Orangutan or Orangutan King. Together with the handsome Monkey King, they formed a fraternal order of 7. Day after day, they discussed civil and military arts, exchanged wine cups and goblets, sang and danced to songs and strings. They gathered in the morning and parted in the evening. There was not a single pleasure that they overlooked, covering a distance of 10,000 miles as if it were but the span of their own courtyard. As the saying has it, one nod of the head goes farther than 3,000 miles. One twist of the torso covers more than 800. One day, the 4 mighty commanders had been told to prepare a great banquet in their own cave, and the 6 kings were invited to the feast. They killed cows and slaughtered horses. They sacrificed to heaven and earth. The various imps were ordered to dance and sing, and they all drank until they were thoroughly drunk. After sending the 6 kings off, Wukong also rewarded the leaders great and small with gifts. Reclining in the shade of pine trees near the sheet iron bridge, he fell asleep in a moment. The 4 mighty commanders led the crowd to form a protective circle around him, not daring to raise their voices. In his sleep, the handsome Monkey King saw 2 men approach with a summons with the 3 characters Sun Wukong written on it. They walked up to him and, without a word, tied him up with a rope and dragged him off. The soul of the handsome Monkey King was reeling from side to side. They reached the edge of a city. The Monkey King was gradually coming to himself when he lifted up his head and suddenly saw above the city an iron sign bearing in large letters the 3 words, Region of Darkness. The handsome Monkey King at once became fully conscious. The Region of Darkness is the abode of Yama, King of Death, he said. Why am I here? Your age in the world of life has come to an end, the 2 men said. The 2 of us were given this summons to arrest you. When the Monkey King heard this, he said, I, Old Monkey himself, have transcended the 3 regions and the 5 phases. Hence, I am no longer under Yama's jurisdiction. Why is he so confused that he wants to arrest me? The 2 summoners paid scant attention. Yanking and pulling, they were determined to haul him inside. Growing angry, the Monkey King whipped out his treasure. One wave of it turned it into the thickness of a rice bowl. He raised his hands once, and the 2 summoners were reduced to hash. He untied the rope, freed his hands, and fought his way into the city, wielding the rod. Bull-headed demons hid in terror, and horse-faced demons fled in every direction. A band of ghost soldiers ran up to the Palace of Darkness, crying, Great kings! Disaster! Disaster! Outside, there's a hairy-faced thunder god fighting his way in. Their report alarmed the 10 kings of the underworld so much that they quickly straightened out their attire and went out to see what was happening. Discovering a fierce and angry figure, they lined up according to their ranks and greeted him with loud voices. "High Immortal, tell us your name. High Immortal, tell us your name." "I am the heaven-born sage, Sun Wukong, from the Water Curtain Cave in the Flower Fruit Mountain," said the Monkey King. "What kind of officials are you?" "We are the emperors of darkness," answered the 10 kings, bowing. "The 10 kings of the underworld." "Tell me each of your names at once," said Wukong, "or I'll give you a drubbing." The 10 kings said, "We are King Xingwang, King of the Beginning River, King of the Song Emperor, King of Avenging Ministers, King Yama, King of Equal Ranks, King of the Tai Mountain, King of City Markets, King of the Complete Change, and King of the Turning Wheel." "Since you have all ascended the thrones of kingship," said Wukong, "you should be intelligent beings, responsible in rewards and punishments. Why are you so ignorant of good and evil? Old Monkey has acquired the Tao and attained immortality. I enjoy the same age as heaven, and I have transcended the 3 regions and leapt clear of the 5 phases. Why then did you send men to arrest me?" Hold, please. "High Immortal," said the 10 kings, "let your anger subside. There are many people in this world with the same name and surname. Couldn't the summoners have made a mistake?" "Nonsense, nonsense," said Wukong. "The proverb says, 'Officials err, clerks err, but the summoner never errs.' Quick, bring out your register of births and deaths and let me have a look." When the 10 kings heard this, they invited him to go into the palace to see for himself. Holding his compliant rod, Wukong went straight up to the Palace of Darkness and, facing south, sat down in the middle. The 10 kings immediately had the judge in charge of the records bring out his books for examination. The judge, who did not dare tarry, hastened into a side room and brought out 5 or 6 books of documents and the ledgers on the 10 species of living beings. He went through them one by one: short-haired creatures, furry creatures, winged creatures, crawling creatures, and scaly creatures, but he did not find his name. He then proceeded to the file on monkeys. You see, though this monkey resembled a human being, he was not listed under the names of men. Though he resembled the short-haired creatures, he did not dwell in their kingdoms. Though he resembled other animals, he was not subject to the unicorn. And though he resembled flying features, he was not governed by the phoenix. He had therefore a separate ledger, which Wukong examined himself, under the heading Soul 1350. He found the name Sun Wukong recorded with the description Heaven-born Stone Monkey, age 342 years, a good end. Wukong said, "I really don't remember my age. All I want is to erase my name. Bring me a brush." The judge hurriedly fetched the brush and soaked it in heavy ink. Wukong took the ledger on monkeys and crossed out all the names he could find in it. Throwing down the ledger, he said, "That ends the account. That ends the account. Now I'm truly not your subject." Brandishing his rod, he fought his way out of the region of darkness. The 10 kings did not dare approach him. They went instead to the Green Cloud Palace to consult the Bodhisattva King Siddhigarba, and made plans to report the incident to heaven, which does not concern us for the moment. Heaven is probably not going to be happy with Sun Wukong soon. He is creating a lot of havoc. While our Monkey King was fighting his way out of the city, he was suddenly caught in a clump of grass and stumbled. Waking up with a start, he realized that it was all a dream. As he was stretching himself, he heard the 4 mighty commanders and the various monkeys crying with a loud voice, "Great king, how much wine did you imbibe? You've slept all night long. Aren't you awake yet?" "Sleeping is nothing to get excited about," said Wukong, "but I dreamed that 2 men came to arrest me, and I didn't perceive their intention until they brought me to the outskirts of the region of darkness. Showing my power, I protested right up to the Palace of Darkness and argued with the 10 kings. I went through our ledger of births and deaths and crossed out all our names. Those fellows have no hold over us now. Various monkeys all kowtowed to express their gratitude. From that time onward, there were many mountain monkeys who did not grow old, for their names were not registered in the underworld. When the handsome Monkey King finished his account of what had happened, the 4 mighty commanders reported the story to the demon kings of various caves, who all came to tender their congratulations. Only a few days had passed when the 6 sworn brothers also came to congratulate him, all of them delighted about the cancellation of the names. We shall not elaborate here on their joyful gathering. We shall turn instead to the great benevolent sage of heaven, the celestial Jade Emperor of the most venerable Deva, who was holding court one day in the treasure hall of divine mists, the cloud palace of golden arches. The divine ministers, civil and military, were just gathering for the morning session when suddenly the Taoist immortal Hongji announced, "Your Majesty, outside the translucent palace, Ao Guang, the Dragon King of the Eastern Ocean, is awaiting your command to present a memorial to the throne." The Jade Emperor gave the order to have him brought forth, and Ao Guang was led into the Hall of Divine Mists. After he had paid his respects, a divine page boy in charge of documents received the memorial, and the Jade Emperor read it from the beginning. The memorial said, "From the lowly water region of the Eastern Ocean at the East Purvavedaya continent, the small dragon subject, Ao Guang, humbly informs the wise Lord of Heaven, the most eminent high god and ruler, that a bogus immortal, Sun Wukong, born of the Flower Fruit Mountain and resident of the Water Curtain Cave, has recently abused your small dragon, gaining a seat in his water home by force. He demanded a weapon, employing power and intimidation. He asked for martial attire, unleashing violence and threats. He terrorized my water kinsmen and scattered turtles and tortoises. The dragon of the Southern Ocean trembled. The dragon of the Western Ocean was filled with horror. The dragon of the Northern Ocean drew back his head to surrender. And your subject, Ao Guang, flexed his body to do obeisance. We presented him with the divine treasure of an iron rod and the gold cap with phoenix plumes, giving him also a chainmail cuirass and cloud-treading shoes. We sent him off courteously. But even then, he was bent on displaying his martial prowess and magical powers, and all he could say to us was, 'Sorry to have bothered you.' We are indeed no match for him, nor are we able to subdue him. Your subject therefore presents this petition and humbly begs for imperial justice. We earnestly beseech you to dispatch the heavenly host and capture this monster so that tranquility may be restored to the oceans and prosperity to the lower region. Thus, we present this memorial." When the holy emperor had finished reading, he gave the command, "Let the dragon god return to the ocean. We shall send out our generals to arrest the culprit." The old dragon king gratefully touched his forehead to the ground and left. From below, the immortal elder Gi, the celestial master, also brought forth the report. "Your Majesty, the minister of darkness, King Qinghua, supported by the Bodhisattva king Itigarba, Pope of the Underworld, has arrived to present his memorial." The jade girl in charge of communication came from the side to receive this document, which the Jade Emperor also read from the beginning. The memorial said, "The region of darkness is the nether region proper to earth. As heaven is for gods and earth for ghosts, so life and death proceed in cyclic succession. Foals are born and animals die. Male and female, they multiply. Births and transformations, the male begotten of the procreative female. Such is the order of nature, and it cannot be changed. But now appears Sun Wukong, a heaven-born baneful monkey from the Water Curtain Cave in the Flower Fruit Mountain, who practices evil and violence and resists our proper summons. Exercising magic powers, he utterly defeated the ghostly messengers of ninefold darkness. Exploiting brute force, he terrorized the 10 merciful kings. He caused great confusion in the palace of darkness. He abrogated by force the register of names, so that the category of monkeys is now beyond control, and inordinately long life is given to the simian family. The wheel of transmigration is stopped, for birth and death are eliminated in each kind of monkey. Your poor monk therefore risks offending your heavenly authority in presenting this memorial. We humbly beg you to send forth your divine army and subdue this monster, to the end that life and death may once more be regulated and the underworld rendered perpetually secure. Respectfully, we present this memorial. When the Jade Emperor had finished reading, he again gave a command. Let the Lord of Darkness return to the underworld. We shall send our generals to arrest this culprit. King Xingwang also touched his head to the ground gratefully and left. The great heavenly Deva called together his various immortal subjects, both civil and military, and asked, when was this baneful monkey born, and in which generation did he begin his career? How is it that he has become so powerfully accomplished in the way? Scarcely had he finished speaking when, from the ranks, Thousand-Mile Eye and Fair-Wind Ear stepped forward. This monkey, they said, is the heaven-born stone monkey of 300 years ago. At that time, he did not seem to amount to much, and we do not know where he acquired the knowledge of self-cultivation these last few years and became an immortal. Now he knows how to subdue dragons and tame tigers, and thus he is able to annul by force the register of death. Which one of you divine generals, asked the Jade Emperor, wishes to go down there to subdue him? Scarcely had he finished speaking when the long-life spirit of the planet Venus came forward from the ranks and prostrated himself. Highest and holiest, he said, within the 3 regions, all creatures endowed with the 9 apertures can, through exercise, become immortals. It is not surprising that this monkey, with a body nurtured by heaven and earth, a frame born of the sun and moon, should achieve immortality, seeing that his head points to heaven and his feet walk on earth, and that he feeds on the dew and the mist. Now that he has the power to subdue dragons and tame tigers, how is he different from a human being? Your subject, therefore, makes so bold as to ask your majesty to remember the compassionate grace of creation and issue a decree of pacification. Let him be summoned to the upper region and given some kind of official duties. His name will be recorded in the register, and we can control him here. If he is receptive to the heavenly decree, he will be rewarded and promoted hereafter. But if he is disobedient to your command, we shall arrest him forthwith. Such an action will spare us a military expedition in the first place, and in the second, permit us to receive into our midst another immortal in an orderly manner. The Jade Emperor was highly pleased with this statement, and he said, we shall follow the counsel of our minister. He then ordered the star spirit of songs and letters to compose the decree and delegated the gold star of Venus to be the viceroy of peace. Having received the decree, the gold star went out of the south heaven gate, lowered the direction of his hallowed cloud, and headed straight for the flower fruit mountain and the water curtain cave. He said to the various little monkeys, I am the heavenly messenger sent from above. I have with me an imperial decree to invite your great king to go to the upper region. Report this to him quickly. The monkeys outside the cave passed the word along one by one until it reached the depth of the cave. Great king, one of the monkeys said, there's an old man outside bearing a document on his back. He says that he is a messenger sent from heaven, and he has an imperial decree of invitation for you. Upon hearing this, the handsome monkey king was exceedingly pleased. These last 2 days, he said, I was just thinking about taking a little trip to heaven, and the heavenly messenger has already come to invite me. The monkey king quickly straightened out his attire and went to the door for the reception. The gold star came into the center of the cave and stood still with his face toward the south. I am the gold star of Venus from the west, he said. I came down to earth bearing the imperial decree of pacification from the Jade Emperor and invite you to go to heaven to receive an immortal appointment. Laughing, Wukong said, I am most grateful for the old star's visit. He then gave the order, little ones, prepare a banquet to entertain our guest. The Gold Star said, "As a bearer of imperial decree, I cannot remain here long. I must ask the great king to go with me at once. After your glorious promotion, we shall have many occasions to converse at our leisure. We are honored by your presence," said Wukong. "I am sorry that you have to leave with empty hands." He then called the 4 mighty commanders together for his admonition. "Be diligent in teaching and drilling the young ones. Let me go up to heaven to take a look and to see whether I can have you all brought up. To take a look and see whether I can have you all brought up there too to live with me." The 4 mighty commanders indicated their obedience. This Monkey King mounted the cloud with the gold star and rose up into the sky. Truly, he ascends the high rank of immortals from the sky. His name's enrolled in cloud columns and treasure scrolls. We do not know what sort of rank or appointment he received. Let's listen to the explanation in the next chapter. I don't believe you, Sam. It's not how that works in my brain. QIU is pronounced chew. I'll try to remember that at least. Thank you, Sam. Yeah, apparently there was pitching of tents and other things going on with staffs. Gal monkeys with red buttocks. I never said it was safe for work. I'm just saying, Mudcrab, be weary. From the last chapter, didn't the patriarch tell him not to tell other people where he got his abilities from, but he told his other monkeys how? Did he specifically tell them who he got them from? I read a whole chapter since then. What's wrong with you? Let me see. Okay. That's where the King of Havoc. Where's head black gold helmet? Snatching the scimitar. I drifted with the waves, swaggered along. After searching for a long time, I had the good fortune to discover an old patriarch. You're right. Yeah. Although he did not give him the name of the patriarch. So maybe that is okay. He didn't give specifics on the location. He just said that he met a patriarch and learned the way from him. So he didn't give the name, nor did he give the location. I feel like he's probably safe from being ripped asunder by the patriarch. Yes, crab inclusion matters. Yay for you. Yes, de bears or beers, because I was getting tongue-tied. He didn't give the specific location on the continent. Maybe my skimming is wrong, though. Yeah. I swaggered along with the clouds for 8 or 9 years, but I had yet to learn the great art. I then crossed the great Western Ocean and reached the West Aparagadanya continent. After searching for a long time, I had the good fortune to discover an old patriarch who imparted to me the formula for enjoying the same age as heaven, the secret of immortality. So he's not giving specific names and locations. The continents can be rather large, so take that as you will. Well, according to the new Mufasa movie, it's not Mufasa's ancestors, and he stole the throne from Scar, so it's Scar's ancestors. You know, completely dismantling everything that we love and enjoy. That was depressing, wasn't it? Wukong may be the king of Flower Fruit Mountain, but Charlie is the king of King. Charlie! And now my brother's saying it. Yeah, this is the fun part. I know, the NSFW. Yep. I couldn't keep reading that without. Oh my god, you spelled color wrong, Cliff. Yeah, it's totally getting demonetized. Oh my god, when I was reading that, I'm like, please, Lord, don't. Never mind, I'm not going to say it because then you will. So it's been banned in local schools. Yeah, I bet. A rice ball or jelly? I don't know, so I suck. Yes, there are a lot of kings in this book. They didn't get the paperwork. Even in heaven, there's bureaucracy. Yeah, that's what it seems like. Shoo. Oh yeah, Shadow's the one that is Chinese. See, I was just trying to pronounce it in the most similar way to Japanese. So that's why I'm confused. But Japanese doesn't have like the Q's like Chinese does. So you could totally be right. I'm doing the best I can with that. No, you're fine. It's good for me to go back. I should have gone back before starting this stream. Scar blew up the Death Star. Yeah. Tis true. Color has been spelled the way it is spelled. That's the royal color, and we don't tolerate that nonsense here in America. I know you mean sexist here, but you put sexiest, so yeah, you can shove it too, Mudcrab. We speak country English. So what do you guys think so far? I mean, obviously you like it better than Haunting of Hill House, because if you didn't, I don't know if we could talk anymore. I know the chapters are long. Are you guys following everything? It's not what I was expecting. You're just such a freaking troll. Stop it. I hate you. You're not in America. You might be. Although you do have an excuse. Cliff doesn't. It's a dumb excuse. Stupid prison colony, I think. Isn't that where you're at? Or somewhere near there. Monkey King is best king. Summed up in the first 10 minutes of the TV series. Well, are you dying? Is that what's happening? You want food that much? I have a dying cat. I'll be right back. He thinks he's hungry and starving. Don't say it, Sam. Or mud crab. Okay. Free settler. Is that a fancy way of saying prison colonies, or? In the TV, he sort of started with the cloud and the staff. Oh, so you're talking about Dragon Ball Z. Got it. Okay. Noted. Yeah, Dom. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, mud crab, it is called monkey. Or the monkey. Go, mud crab, you know what I'm talking about. And if you don't, Sam does. See comment below. Kel. You suck. No, they're convict scum states. Wow. Okay. Clearly this book is not doing well for my brain. There are convict scum states. Here's where I'm from. I see. Very well. I'll have to take your word for it. Hey, your average patriot nerd. The storing. Oh my lord. I've been reading for 2 hours. I apologize. Story's been going very well. Thank you. I am enjoying it. Much better than the last one. Probably, as it currently stands, equal to John Carter on enjoyment level so far. Noted. Okay, so Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania. I don't know what WA is. Nope, I got nothing. Ah, I see. Shut the fuck up, Sam. 24 movies based around this book and a bunch of shows. Did you guys end up watching that on Sunday? The Journey to the West? Reading the book, I'm liking it a little so far. Definitely better than the last. I could understand liking John Carter better. This one, like, the pacing is somewhat long. But it jumps through a lot of, like, time is distorted a bit. So Tasmania, isn't that where this guy is always yellow and rain shine? Well, I hope you guys enjoyed it. All right. On that note, I do need to head out for the evening, my friends. This has been fun. Thank you for hanging out, and thank you for everybody that sent a tip in. You guys are awesome. I'm glad it started working again. I appreciate you all. And I hope you guys have a good evening. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, do all those things if you so feel and want to. Someday I'll get better at saying this in the proper order. But follow me on all the little socials here, Rumble, Twitter, Instagram, if you don't already. And for all of you watching it on the replay, I appreciate you just as much as people in live chat. You guys are awesome. Have a good night.